Hello, and welcome back to, I guess we're going to call this, the Vernacular Overcast. Put some stank on that. With your man who's speaking now, Hunter, and my boy, Ricardo. And today, we are joined by a special guest. Rico, will you tell people at home who our little special guest is?
He doesn't want to.
Really nailing it there.
I'm so.
It's because he doesn't remember my name.
Oh my, he doesn't. I mean, right now
It's the
he's just-
lumbago.
he's in his
The
own world right
lumbago
now.
got me.
It is the lumbago.
No, we have someone. Who are you? It's the lumbago.
We have. It
We
is
have
lumbago. I guess
lumbago.
introduce
We have
yourself.
lumbago.
Oh my god.
Hi.
So
My
that's
na-
how
my name's-
that's how
Perfect.
this is
My
gonna
Alright.
name is my name is Chloe.
go. Cool.
What's up? I'm Jared. I'm 19.
That reminds me of what I
19.
wanted to talk about. Oh my
I'm a
god! All
college
right.
student, and
What a
I'm
perfect
lonely.
time.
Thank you.
All right. All right. We got Chloe on the podcast today, and
Chloe on the beat. Holla at me.
Hi.
Chloe.
Sorry.
Oh my god. Stop. Why are you trying your hardest to just ruin the flow? It is ridiculous.
I just say what comes to mind. It's how it's going today.
That is the part that's making it the
I
issue.
think it's making it the best.
Okay. Today we got Chloe on the podcast. Chloe, tell people kind of just an overview on what you do, what you're doing,
Why you do?
who you are.
Why is Chloe?
I'm a sophomore in college. I pay a lot of money to a really expensive school for mediocre results. I'm
Jesus.
Perfect.
lonely, and I make really mediocre work. I'm basically paying
And-
for unemployment when I get out of school because I'm a film major and
There you go. There
and
you
a
go.
creative
I mean,
writing minor, so it's like double unemployment, really.
That sounds
I'm
really,
just really
really
just-
good.
Yeah.
double unemployment. That is some shit. That's some shit
Yeah.
right there.
So
I burped again.
Ugh.
yeah, I'm really happy to be here right now. I was really bored, so it gave me something to
You're
do.
aware we're not paying you, right?
Thank you.
Anyway,
That hit home.
so that just a little bit.
Yeah. So what's
so
the
today,
first topic?
Rico. Yeah. Let's go into it. That's Rico's got the first topic. I have at least.
Well, first of all, I want to
to
talk about
I'd
something
say.
before I forget it again for like the 5th time. So,
all right.
So,
you got the floor.
so
You got the floor,
just-
Mr. Laugh Boy.
So I was sitting in my health class and we were watching. You know that documentary, Super Size Me? You guys remember watching that?
Yeah, I have. We watched it. I remember watching it in middle school. Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember this or not, but there's a specific scene in there where they bring in a health, well, not a health, I don't know. They bring in someone who is apparently experienced in healthy foods, and they bring him to a middle school. And they bring the elementary school up to watch
Right.
with the middle schoolers. And out of everybody that they could have gotten, and I don't, at the time it was a good choice, but the minute I saw Jared from Subway walk up onto that stage, I just want you to know that I pissed myself laughing. And he was
That
like, "How we
aged like
doing,
fine
kids?"
wine, huh?
And I was like, "Jeez."
Ooh,
He was like-
yikes.
He's like, I had a lot of issues. I never did drugs. I never did this, never did that, but I was fat. I was like, "You touched kids. That's a problem."
I never had too many issues except I was
Then-
really
and
fat
then what
and
made
I
it-
decided to really like kids.
What made it really better was that at the end of that, they did like an interview with Jared talking to like this middle school kid who was like really in love with Jared. He's like, "Thank you
God.
for coming
Oh
today.
no!
I know weight is a problem for me, and I you really helped me and gave me insight." And he like went and gave her a hug, and I was like, "No,
Come on
no!"
backstage in a few. We can have a deeper discussion. You
I
know,
was like, "God,
Oh.
come on back
why
to my
didn't you
subway
just
mansion.
cut that from?" No, it's just why.
Because it's a 20-year. Why would they go back
I
and
know,
recut
but, like,
something? 20
Jared,
years
come on,
afterward. I mean,
Jared.
well, and back in like the early 90s, Jared. I mean, or the 90s, Jared wasn't a pedophile, so they
No,
didn't have to
they
worry
didn't
about
know
that.
Jared wasn't. They didn't know Jared was.
That's
a
what I mean.
pedophile.
That's what I mean. That's what I
Yeah.
mean. And that.
Oh.
Oh my God, that is the funny. That's like one of those things where that is ridiculous. Because of course he would be in
Yeah.
that. Of course he would. He was a fat guy that became skinny. Of course he'd be in a documentary about obesity. But that is the funniest thing, that he is in that. Oh my God, and he's talking to middle
It was
schoolers.
pretty funny to watch.
Oh my God. That's like those clips you find of like. Oh God. Well, I guess we're back on topics from last podcast. It's like those clips of Bill Cosby from the Bill Cosby Show, where he's just like, "It's my secret sauce," and it makes everybody want to fuck.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh.
that is horrible. Why were you Okay, hold on. Why were you watching Super
I
Size
don't
Me?
know. Our health teacher was like, "Hey, yeah."
Oh, it was
he
in health
like,
class,
"You kids
right,
are
okay.
fat. You need to watch this." And I'm gonna be honest with you. After we because we didn't watch the whole thing. It's like we're doing it over the course of the week, but after we finished that video, I unnaturally wanted some McDonald's. Like I'm not gonna lie. I
That
was
is
like,
the
I mean,
opposite.
You had
a quarter
Arby's
pounder
today.
cheese sounds really good right now, even though I just watched him hurl it out the window. Like, it sounds good. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
It does. I mean, yeah, it gets in your brain, man. Did you know that with McDonald's, it's either McDonald's or I don't know which one it is, but they have like it's what is it? It's like sodium something, and it's basically just plastic. It's just a plastic powder, like stuff that's in plastic. It's just in your burger, It's harmless. It's just in your burger. But you know what, man? Here's the thing with that stuff, is that I could have every single health official on planet Earth that has ever existed look me dead in the soul and tell me that McDonald's is bad for me. I'm still
Yeah.
gonna go get some nuggets.
Yeah,
True.
because it's good.
I mean, it's like the same thing. Is that like you have those initiatives in like Australia with cigarettes where they put like destroyed lungs on the cigarette packages to curb people from smoking. But there's some guy out in the boonies kicking kangaroos, grabbing those cigarettes up and still smoking like 50 packs a day because he doesn't care. He still wants his cigarettes. I don't care that they're pink sludge. I want my chicken nuggets, man.
Yeah. Oh man, but let's get into the topics that.
Let's just jump into
Let's
it.
dive on in.
What's happening for
Let's
him?
bop and beat.
Oh my.
Today we're gonna be bracking open some of the biggest bastions of the Boovie Beniverse. No, I'm
Bastions?
Yeah, questions with a B. Bastions.
Bastion.
Bastions. Anyway,
You're a bastion.
so I.
Okay, I'm sorry. Continue.
All right. Well. Okay.
I just wasn't expecting.
Thank you for that.
My only
even-
contribution to this entire thing.
I don't even want to do it anymore. No.
Oh my God.
But
Anywho,
Doug, what were
I
you
was-
gonna say?
I was
Let's
gonna
get
talk
to the meat and
about
potatoes.
how I'm very distraught over this. I don't know how to feel about this.
Oh yeah.
But Marvel is gonna take a year break from making movies. They're just not. They're not gonna
After
release
what-
anything for a
after what
year.
movie?
After Spider-Man.
After
Far
what
From Home.
movie?
Far From Home. They're just. They're taking a break and they're
Damn.
not gonna release anything.
Well, here's the thing, man. I mean, it's not gonna be as hard as
Oh,
you
I
think it
know.
is because the last movie they released was was the last Avengers one, Infinity War. That was back in April,
That was
and they're
almost a year,
releasing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been a year. They released it back in the April
Hmm.
23rd back then, a year ago in 2018, and now it's
Well,
now releasing
no,
the next
the
part a
last movie
year
they
from
released
then.
was Ant-Man and the Wasp. That was July.
Oh. Yeah, but
Oh,
nobody
well, I mean
nobody
that's
cares
still
about that
that's
one.
still yeah, that doesn't exist. So
Just
forget about
Nobody
it.
cared
kidding.
about that one. Well, I mean,
Nobody cared
Well,
about
nobody
Ant-Man.
watched it.
of course, everyone's still distraught over watching everybody get. I can't say that. After watching all of the
Why?
beloved heroes,
Everybody got the snap.
get,
Snap,
This-
snap that.
Snap.
I am
Snip,
biting
snap,
my
snip,
tongue
snap.
so hard right now. But
Snap, 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 snap.
Snap, snap, snap. Clap, clap,
Oh my
clap.
god. Throw back.
are you going to eat that croissant?
Croissant. Sodium
yourself out,
chloride. Anybody
Salt-
seen that one? No.
Oh yeah, 5 star.
Oh,
Yeah,
but
I've
I
seen
mean,
it's salt.
yeah. So they're
Back to
taking
Marvel,
a year-long
yeah.
break, and it's gonna be after Spider-Man: Far From Home, where they're just not gonna release anything. And I read an
Oh, oh,
interview or an article
Mhm.
about it, and it said that
Right.
Joe Russo apparently, when he was asked about this, he said that they're taking a break until they're ready to make Secret Wars,
What's Secret
the
Wars?
1985 or 84 to 85 storyline. So,
Ooh.
I mean, that's pretty interesting. But like that's a
That's-
lot of
yeah, that's
characters that
something.
are
I mean,
in
but-
Secret Wars that you're probably killing off in this next movie. So like
Right. Well, that's the thing. If it's in '84,
84 you had, well, it was a
What?
mix with the X-Men too. So that could be an introduction to X-Men, you know, being part of the Marvel
Yeah,
universe
I
from
guess.
them buying it from 20th Century, but I mean then you're
Right.
getting rid of like Captain America and Iron Man, and
well, Captain America wouldn't
Captain
be in
America
there.
was in Secret Wars.
Yeah, no, he went. Or yeah. Well, wait, hold on. You were saying it takes place in
I'm
'85,
saying it's
right?
from 30, as a reference they're using the 84 and 85 storyline.
Oh. Oh. Okay.
So like
Okay.
it'll probably be all the characters.
I got you.
But I mean they did,
I thought you were saying it took place
No.
in 1985. I'm like, that bitch was frozen.
yeah,
Mhm.
but I mean they
we got
they
Castle.
did say they were using, they're wanting to introduce a bunch of backseat characters that like pretty much nobody knows about, and that's what Feige said.
Right.
And I'm pretty excited for that. I'm not gonna lie. But
Yeah,
I
that'd
don't
be pretty
know.
cool. I mean, like that's what they usually do is that they bring back those characters. Like like before Guardians came out, before it was everybody's favorite shit. Nobody fucking knew
Yeah.
about that shit.
True.
Which leads to them making them a ton of money. So I think what they're trying to do with bringing people in, like bringing characters in that
Mhm.
no one knows about, is try and bring back that kind of same thunder
Mhm.
Guardians, but you don't have a James
Yeah.
Gunn to write
They
it.
did you hear they're using his script for the third Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah,
I
I know
know
they're
they were
using his
iffy about it,
But
because
they're
of him being edgy on Twitter. Go him, by the way.
yeah, that's some of that stuff is a little bit.
Yeah.
That James Gunn stuff is a
Yeah.
little ridiculous.
True.
But I mean, hey man, DC, our favorite DC, coming in swooping up our main man. If he does good, man, I mean DC will have a good director on them.
Oh, yeah,
they'll have their
They definitely
they'll
will.
have
And then
they'll have their few like Marvel directors, that who know what the hell
Yeah.
they're doing and can actually make a decent film. Other than they won't have their what's his face.
Zack Snyder.
they won't have their Schneider right. That's their main guy right now, and he kind of ruined
His
it.
daughter kind of bit the bullet, but
Yeesh. You can't blame the man for that. I mean,
but I mean,
I would be pretty bad at making movies if that should happen to me too.
I know I just wanted to get that biting the bullet joke in there because
I mean, at this point, we're killing it. I mean, your jokes are landing, dude.
oh, this is harder than I thought it was gonna be.
Oh my god.
I had to bite my tongue.
Well, I mean,
And I usually don't do that, so that's a little tough. But
well, with Marvel is interesting right now. It's in this weird limbo state where they're in this weird limbo state where they're kind of like, okay, we did everything that the last decade has been leading up to, right? So it's like basically they had a target and now they kind of lost it because they already they hit it. They hit the target.
and
They hit the
I
milestone.
think, I hope.
But then they didn't. I see it. It kind of seemed like they don't have too much. Not saying they don't, but they're kind of almost like they're back in that up in the air state again because they're at a point back in after Guardians. I feel like after Guardians they had this state where they're basically just they could come out with anything. They came out with Ant-Man. Ant-Man did all right. They come out with Guardians. Guardians did fantastic. Guardians 2 did even better than that. So you have this thing where they have these bonkers Marvel things. Marvel came up with some bonkers ass shit to try and sell comics, and now that they're putting them in movies, they were putting them in movies, and people were watching it and liking it. They could have made anything and it would have been good. They could have made anything and had people watch it at least. So now they're at this point where after this happened, like the biggest shit in the world, in their universe, biggest shit happens, and now they're kind of left. They're like, okay, well, what now? Like, where do we go from here? Like, they're not sure if the next thing they do will work necessarily.
I think they just kind of want to play it safe, and they want to be thorough like they were last time. Because, I mean, having a story arc that lasts 20-something odd movies, and is like your final goal. That's
right.
You don't just like, hey, let's do this really quick and or let's write this up really quick and see how that goes. It'll be fine. Like, they didn't wing it.
Right, and that's the thing too, is that they need, like, the biggest part of success from them in the early days to get to the point where Avengers fucking exploded. They had that star power from RDJ and Chris Evans. They had their main little cast, and they had those powerhouses that could just fucking make a movie. They could sit there and be entertaining just on their own, no matter what character they're playing. So I think they need something like that for this. What is it? Fourth wave or whatever.
Yeah.
Like third this fourth era of Marvel after this it's almost literally like a 3-act in a movie. Yeah, the first act where it was kind of funky, the second act where they started taking off, and the third act where it was the big explosion. And then now you need something in this fourth act to kind of maybe not updo the explosion,
kind of
be like, hey, this is you need to not like I don't know about resolving, because resolving would, I mean, that's the whole point of the third act, is to resolve it.
Well, even that kind of
leave it up for
resolution
interpretation
wasn't
for the next
really
one.
a resolution, because
well, yeah, because this is it's basically part one, with Infinity War.
yeah. So then the next one will be the resolution.
So then Endgame's the resolution, right? And then that's the end of this era of Marvel. Basically, that's going to be the end of it. It has to be, because then you're just beating a dead horse until it's a red stain on the ground.
That joke. I think it was.
I would assume so, but I don't know.
It was this joke about they said they beat this guy half to death, but they were like, how do you know you beat him half to death?
Oh,
And then they
yeah,
beat
yeah,
him
yeah.
and
It's a Brian Regan bit.
that,
Yeah. I'll butcher his bit, but it was basically like he was walking down the street and he saw these guys beat this guy up really bad, and this old lady came out and was like, "They beat that man half to death." And he asked her, he thought that was kind of strange, and he asked her, he's like, "How do you know they beat him exactly half to death?" And so him and the old lady walked over to the guy and beat him exactly half to death, and he, at the very last punch, he died. So they're like, "Oh yeah, they really did beat him half to death." They really did beat the shit out of him exactly half to death.
that's
Yeah, it would be like that. It would really... Like, we were talking about this yesterday. I forget, was it... I think it was in the podcast. Where we were saying with, like,
yeah,
Breaking Bad
yeah.
and
Walking
those
Dead.
kind of... Those TV
How
shows...
The Walking Dead
yeah,
has
with The Walking
beat
Dead. Like,
its
the difference
horse
between
and not
Breaking
let
Bad
it,
and Walking
like,
Dead
die.
is The
They
Walking
keep
Dead...
reviving it and like beating it
Right.
some more.
The Walking Dead doesn't know how to die, funnily
Don't even
enough.
get me
It doesn't know how to
started.
die. But the Breaking Bad goes for 5 seasons and ends, and at the last episode it had the highest ratings in the
Yeah.
it's ever had. But The Walking Dead, if it gets, or like The Big Bang Theory, if it gets the highest, viewing, if highest views on the last like a season
Well,
finale, they're going for like 5 more
Well, The
seasons
Walking-
because they need to get
The
more money.
Walking Dead had to survive long enough to introduce Negan because Negan is such a big villain in the comics that they had to hold out long enough to bring him in because they thought that he would bring in a lot of viewers, which he did for the first episode of the season, and then they killed off Glenn, and then everybody was like, all right, that was great, cool, not gonna watch anymore,
What do you think
i.e.
about?
what I did.
Yeah, what do you think
Right.
about their decision to kill off Andrew Lincoln?
They didn't kill him off.
They didn't kill him
It's
off.
technically unknown as... No, Rick is still alive. Well, it's actually pretty unknown as to whether he's still alive or not. But it was also Andrew Lincoln's decision to leave the show, which I think was pretty dumb. What I was really bummed about was their decision to kill off Carl, because that was really, like, that was very sudden, and I think everybody thought that once Rick was going to be inevitably killed off or taken off of the show, that Carl was going to be the showrunner.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how it is in the comics. And now that Carl's not alive anymore, there's really no, like, foundation anymore.
I mean, I haven't.
So-
I watched
Right.
maybe
That's a fair
up to
point.
season 3 of The Walking Dead, and I never really got
Oh,
past
best
that
season.
because it just, I don't know.
Season 3 was the best.
Don't get me wrong.
Season 3 and
I think
4.
it's.
I watched every week. I watched every episode up until like season 4, and then once they left the prison, I was like, eh. And but then once Negan came back, I like started to watch again.
I think
But then it just
I don't know. If I
there's a
got-
lot of filler episodes.
I don't know if I got up to Negan. I know I got past the governor. And
Yeah.
all
The
that.
Governor was a great plot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now they're moving on to the
That, yeah, like,
they're moving on to the Whispers now, and it
Yeah.
just I feel like they're trying too hard to copy the comics, and for people that most of the viewers of the show probably don't read the comics, so there's not as much of a like of a want to watch factor, because I mean people that read the comics want to see it transcribed into a show,
Mhm.
but for the people that don't read the comics, they see all of these filler episodes and these random plots, thrown in because they're from the comics, and they think, well, this is boring. This has nothing for me.
Yeah.
So,
That's the problem I think is
right.
with that.
That's the thing
Because
about
I mean they don't
between, like-
necessarily like make it just for the comic people. Or I mean like that's the thing I think of with Marvel or DC, is that they don't make it necessarily just for the comic people. They try to make it
exactly.
so that if you don't if you haven't read the comic, then hey, we're giving you a chance to get your act together and figure out why you were so retarded and didn't read the comics, because they're pretty great.
Well, and I think that the Walking Dead and like DC and Marvel comics, they're very different types of comics. I mean,
Yeah.
I would read The Walking Dead for like the character development and the storyline. To me, they just seem like different genres of comics. They're both great, and they have great pluses and negatives and stuff like that. But I feel like the way that the showrunners of The Walking Dead have gone about their storylines and stuff, it's just different than what made Marvel and DC successful with their transcriptions of comics to movies and shows.
Yeah.
And I think that really hurt The Walking Dead because it has really great storylines regarding the comics. It has really great storylines and very great character development, but I feel like with them they just tried too hard to like match the comic and the show, and it really hurt their viewership.
Gotcha.
And that's that on that.
How did you feel about how did you feel about Fear the Walking Dead? Because
I have not
I
watched it.
I remember when they were like, "Hey, we're gonna do this," and no idea what that was. No idea. I haven't watched it at all.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's good, but there's really just no fact. Like, there's no. I have no want to watch it, and I know that they brought over Morgan,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah, it was Morgan.
That was a big event. Was like there was one character from The Walking Dead that was transferring over to Fear the Walking Dead, and then turns out it was a character that's been on The Walking Dead since the first episode, and it's like, oh well that's, and it was a character that was on the first episode, but like wasn't on the show for its entirety, so it was like they tried to entice people, but it was just Morgan that was jumping over, and it just didn't
just Morgan
get me interested in it at all.
Right. Well, here's the thing about it, and it's such a strange idea to have your secondary kind of other show for the series based on what happened before the main draw of the series. Like, imagine, like, it's kind of strange that a lot of shows are doing this. Like, you think about the same thing with
Yeah.
Gotham. Gotham is this whole show about what Gotham was like before Batman. Obviously, I think it's a good idea for them to name it Gotham, because it's not about, it's not like Batman before Batman. It's not like Batman : So it's about Gotham, I get that, but like the main draw of why people, see the location of Gotham is because, oh, Batman.
Yeah, and I think
Batman's a thing.
that Gotham works
Go
for
ahead.
some different reasons. I mean, Batman is a staple of Americana. I mean, Batman goes back so long, and it's mostly movies and comic books. So then since Gotham is a show, it's a little bit different than the medium that everybody's used to seeing Batman's world in. But with Fear the Walking Dead, I mean, it came out however long after the show initially premiered. I don't think anybody really cares about what happened before this zombie apocalypse. I mean, zombies were such a fad when when Walking Dead first came out, and then when they tried to introduce Fear the Walking Dead, it was kind of like, well, we're already over all the zombie stuff, and we're starting to get tired of the main show. So it didn't work. But Gotham explores a new side of, because Gotham is about like the Joker and stuff, right?
It's about like the origin. It mainly focuses around Jim Gordon, and that's who.
Right.
Yeah,
He's
that's
like the
who
main
they
character.
originally, like, I guess, started it off with. It was like him becoming a detective, but as the show went on, it focuses on like the origin of the Riddler. It focuses on Barbara Gordon, who is not like the daughter of Jim, but I don't even know, but and it focuses on Penguin and all these villains that we really had no background to. And what they just did with the Joker apparently was not very good. I don't know if either of you saw what that was.
Mm-mm.
Didn't they like full on turn him with like
Yeah,
bleach skin
well,
and
what
stuff like that?
what they're doing is like, see, they did that kind of. They did it earlier because, all right, if you haven't watched Gotham up until this point, there's gonna be some spoilers.
I'm psh, That's the thing too, is that like with Gotham, it never piqued my interest because, at least just for me, I mean, I get the fact of like, oh, it's a different being
Hmm.
than Batman. That's the I get that's the appeal of it. It's a different being than Batman. It's about Gotham and how like basically it's just a precursor to the Gotham Batman cleans up. It shows how bad Gotham gets with all the supervillains and stuff like that. I get that, and I like that appeal of it, but I'll never watch it just because to me, I mean,
Yeah,
Batman's the cool
yeah,
part.
Right.
and that's how I
That
felt.
makes sense.
They're slowly kind of edging him in. They're showing
Right.
how Bruce Wayne.
Ooh, bad, bad choice of words. You continue.
they're slowly introducing him as Batman.
There you go.
Um,
There you go.
but I mean, for me, watching like The Dark Knight and knowing comics and whatnot, you know that Bruce becomes Batman. And he takes on that um, identity later in his life. He doesn't do it when he's like
Right.
a 15-year-old kid, which is what Gotham is doing. Because right now at this point,
Right.
I
Like
think
I like how they
Bruce is
showed
like
it
at
in.
least maybe like 18, 19. And they're like he's suiting up now, like he's getting his prototype suits and whatnot. But like he didn't go to
I like. Right. It's like how in Nolan's films they showed how before he was Batman to get his rocks off on
Mhm.
beating up criminals, he would go to like
Yeah.
Indonesian prisons and
Yeah, and
just get in
I think
fights.
that's the Batman that most people, or that's the Bruce Wayne that most people expect to become Batman, but instead we're getting an 18, 19-year-old kid who's fully ready to take on the responsibility of saving lives and beating people half to death. Like, that's
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
exactly.
After
But I mean, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of them making Bruce Batman so young. But I mean,
that. Hmm.
I'm more of a fan of the villain story arc that they're carrying. That's more intriguing to me. So
Hmm.
there's that.
There's that. What was any other, um, either any notes on that, or does anyone want to go on to the next topic?
Sure. What's the next topic, boy?
Topic. I mean, do you want to go with mine and then go back to yours?
Yeah, whatever.
Afterward,
Whatever
we
you
go.
want to do.
All right. Well, this is just kind of a big overview question. It's nothing specific, but it does. You can obviously go into
Pacifics.
specifics.
Atlantics.
But I wrote down a thing of like, I didn't want to write anything about your favorite film, because I know just from experience, picking my favorite film is like the hardest
Oh,
shit in
yeah.
the world. So I just put down what's a film like, and this is the only word I can kind of come up with, but like, what's the film that like that you respect, and like why do you respect it? Like in
Ooh.
that way of like you see a film, it might not be your favorite film, but like you see that and you're like, that's the type of shit that is cool about making movies. Like that's the cool stuff right there. And then like why is that kind of where you're like you see that and you respect it to that point?
Hmm.
I guess I can kind of go for a little bit of an example, like something I respect, and I do love it, but you don't necessarily have to have that in your answer. But like I respect the hell out of just like I don't know, like the little stuff the directors do. Like it's kind of an overview for me. Like I love Tarantino
I was gonna
films.
mention
I
him.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tarantino film. It's so damn like it's so crazy how he gets so time period
Mhm.
accurate. Like I've been on such a cowboy kick ever since Red Dead, but like I've watched like every cowboy movie comes out with because he's on that western kind of area, and a lot of his movies, even like going back to Pulp Fiction and that kind of stuff, even though they're very heavily crime movies. I mean, he based them on westerns just because that's what he grew up with. He lived in the western era. So when he puts in like just like super time period specific stuff. Like he doesn't shy away obviously from like bad words at that time, and that's Tarantino kind of charm is that you get to hear the N word 1,000 times. But like every little piece that he puts in is just like it's so perfect. You can't take a single scene out of a Tarantino film and have it work. Like you
Mm.
can't. You have it's like you and that's the thing too is that it's hard to even plead a case for you to add anything either. It's so compact and so like perfect in a way. It's so like perfectly timed the timing of every scene. Everything is so like to a T that you have to respect it. You don't even have to like Tarantino films,
Yeah.
but you have to respect it because like even his dialogue to a point, like that whole dialogue scene in the car with Pulp Fiction about them talking about
Oh
the
yeah, which
Royale with cheese and everything.
It's a
That
good restaurant.
puts on this thing of like, right? It puts on like you have this good rapport between Vincent and Jules, and it shows that kind of their parallel between how they act with each other, and then also how they act. It sets up the characters, but also it changes how like you see how they act in that scene. The what does Marcellus Wallace look like when they're working, and you see just how they work and like how their personality changes, and like see the dynamic of Jules being the bad cop, and everything just works, and it's such. I have to respect it. I
Right.
have to
I
respect
mean,
it. So I guess send it to any
I,
you guys.
on the like Tarantino point, I am not a fan of his movies. I watched Pulp Fiction and it didn't really do anything for me. I have no, I I don't think I would need to watch it again.
Inside
but I
Hunter
can
is
respect
screaming right
his.
now.
Yeah, right. I mean, it just did
No, I'm
it
not.
it did nothing for me, but I can definitely respect his drive and his passion and his attention to detail, like you said. It's really impressive to have. I mean, he really doesn't have. If we're going off of movies that he's directed, I mean, he's got a really solid portfolio. I mean, not to talk in terms of like a student, but to have a portfolio where
Oh, go ahead.
everybody can name off your movies and they're so recognizable. It's very impressive. And with a career spanning back just to the early 90s, I mean, to be already so successful. I mean, maybe he has a foot fetish, but we can't really blame him for that. He's made some, even though I'm not a fan of him, I'm sure they could be considered pretty damn good movies. So, it's impressive. I mean, he's worked with Harvey Weinstein a lot, and that's kind of not cool. But like I said, we'll
Well,
just look
yeah.
past that, and we'll separate the art from the artist, and it can be
Right,
impressive.
right.
Yeah. What about you, Rico? Do you
How
like?
about you, Rico? Because I
Yeah,
can
I'm-
think of
I'm
someone that
definitely
you
gonna
might
bring
bring
him
up,
up.
so I don't want to bring it up before you do.
I know who it is.
I absolutely adore little Christopher Nolan and his cute chubby little
Christopher
face
Nolan.
more than anything in this world, and he could serenade me to the ends of the earth, talking about how I wrote this movie and I got Hans Zimmer to compose the music on it, and I loved it very much, and blah blah blah. In his monotone voice, he could throw me into a back of a van and have me all day. I don't care. But no, I definitely respect Christopher Nolan's writing. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it because he gives you that. Not only does he give you the Batman trilogy, which was fantastic, and he gives you Interstellar and Inception, which are such big name movies, and people are probably gonna be like, "Oh, those are such big name movies. You probably just like them because you watched them." Yeah, okay, but I mean, just appreciating the writing and the deception that he puts in the movies is just fantastic, man. I love it. I probably
That's one thing about Christopher Nolan that
Mhm.
that with like on that writing point. That's one thing I appreciate about Christopher Nolan and respect about him is that his writing. He treats you like a person. Like he doesn't treat you like an idiot. He knows that you can pick up on small details, and there's sometimes that obviously there are gonna people, what does Inception mean? I don't understand it. Like obviously people are gonna be stupid. but you have people who will look at your film and appreciate it, even though you have those small details that may be hard to pick up on. They're still they're it's like having an
Yeah.
Easter egg from a video game in your movie. It's like having those small little things that you have to pick up on to, not to enjoy it, but to almost be like, it's like obviously something that a film student would have to pick up on to understand how to write a film. They're just little things like, you know, having, I can't think of an example, but like having, like Inception end on a,
Oh,
maybe
I've done
not
I
note, which is totally
I
not
did a
maybe. It's
paper
totally
on
in real
Inception,
world.
so
But anyway,
I mastered
the
that movie. I torn apart that movie and put
Yeah.
it back together every imaginable way. I love that movie with a burning passion, my heart and soul.
Right.
But I mean, just I like now I'm all giddy. I love it. I'm like a little boy at Keystone. Yeah, no, but definitely
Oh,
the
boy.
one thing I do love about that is that he blatantly says that he doesn't care what people think he thinks the ending is. He wanted the ending to be up
Oh,
for
yeah.
interpretation. And that's what he does with most of his movies. He did that
Right,
he did
right.
that with Inception, and he did that with multiple other things, and I think that's amazing. I love that. For the example,
Right, like, what was
for
that with my
example,
voice?
we'll just talk about Inception really quick. because
Right, like-
any chance I could get to talk about Inception,
Yeah,
I'm
just go
going to
ahead.
talk about
Just go
Inception.
into it.
The ending
Go
scene with Cobb spinning his totem onto the table and then seeing his kids. The whole entire movie, you see, he's afraid to look at his kids. That's what it is. He's afraid to look at his kids because of guilt. It's not. A lot of people thought that it was because, oh, well, he can't stand the guilt of looking at his kids and realizing that he's the one who took their mother away from them. Maybe that plays a part of it, but the main thing was I just completely ruined that. Yes, that's what I meant. It's been a long day. That is what I meant to say. That's what I meant to say.
You're doing
He
great.
definitely looks at his kids and feels guilt. What was I gonna say? But they thought, well, his kids aren't real in the dreams, so that's why he doesn't look at them. And that there we go. That might be a little true, but I think for the most part it's the guilt factor, because the whole movie is, take it as you will, pretty much focusing on Cobb's guilt. That's the embodiment of Maul throughout the movie. It's his envisionment of Maul, and it's the embodiment of his guilt. So when he inevitably doesn't feel guilty anymore and realizes that he was pure this entire time, he no longer feels the need to hide that, and he can finally move on and live his life. And that's the symbolism of the top, is him finally letting go and not really caring anymore about the past and living in the moment. He no longer needs he no longer strives to have to dream. And that's what I absolutely love
Right.
about that movie.
Right, like, I just, I was gonna bring up, I just watched,
Mm-hmm.
True Detective Season 3. Great show, by the way. But
Yes.
that kind of ended on a similar note. I don't want to bring it up because I really do want everybody to just go watch that show because it's a great show. Obviously, Season 2 is a little stupid, but, Season 3, I love that. I love when stuff ends like that, when it ends kind of like that,
Mm-hmm.
ambiguous but not. It's kind of like, obviously, it has to end, and it has to end a certain way, but they kind of, filmmakers, when they are asked and like what was your movie supposed to mean is like the stupidest question you can
Yep.
ask a person, because the whole point of making a movie is to put this feeling or even like a question in your head and make you feel with it and make you kind of process it on your own. That's the point of a film. A point of a film is to make,
Preach.
entertain you and also possibly make you ask some questions. So when you go up to someone and say, "Hey, what that movie mean?" Like, idiot, that's your job. That's not my job. I gave you the, I gave you the puzzle
Yeah.
pieces. You
Right.
put the
I was
puzzle
just
together.
gonna say that. To me,
Like,
being a filmmaker is like your job is to guide your viewer to a certain extent. I mean, you're not spelling it all out to them in black and white.
Yeah.
It's up to the viewer to interpret
That's
Right.
what they
yeah.
just saw, to create their own ideas and to carry on. I mean, I'm sure that's exactly what Christopher Nolan wanted, is for people like us to be sitting here and talking about his film. I mean, I'm sure I mean, to me, I think that would be the ultimate dream
That's the ultimate
for any
compliment.
filmmaker.
I mean, having
Right.
people argue over what your movie means, that's
Right.
got to be
And to just to keep having a conversation and creating new ideas and catching new Easter eggs and talking about the plot points and the characters. And I think it's really awesome that we're able to do that with every movie that we see. And it's what makes me want to create things for other people.
yeah.
right. That's like, at least for me, one of the main things I want someone to come away like from my movie from, or from a film, or just anything I make. I want them to kind of come away with, like, I want them to think about it for the next like week. I want them to like sit up and think about, wait, what was
Right.
that about? What was that thing doing there? And like just give them those little nuggets of like, oh, it's like picking a crumb out your teeth, and like you're like, oh, you can taste the food again, and then like you're like, oh, I can think about that movie again, because that's the whole point of like you giving them like, and that's what I love about like mystery films, is that you give them this mystery, you give them this weird thing that you put together. It's your brainchild, and it's like a peek into your psyche for this person. It's a peek into like how you work as a person, and then they have to figure that out, and also figure out what your movie was and everything. Obviously, you don't want to make it too confusing. You don't want to make a movie that just doesn't make any sense, but you give them these little pieces. You give them a little, cracker here, cracker there kind of thing. You leave a little, crumb trail, and you're like, this is what this was.
Right.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
I agree.
That was, yeah, that was basically what that kind of question was. Is how do you, that's the main thing, is that I think a respectable, anything to, to be a respectable director or a respectable movie or filmmaker or something, that is just kind of to, well, obviously try your best, do your best. You can't do wrong if you do your best, and you know leave people
Yeah.
with a message.
Hmm.
And don't, and obviously, you can leave people with a pretentious message, which is stupid. But leave people with a message, basically just like,
Yeah.
this is what this was, and then chew on that for a second, and then that's your message. That could be your message. Watch my movie, idiot, and that's your
Mhm.
message.
Oh man.
But yeah, I think that's just all you gotta have, is
Yeah.
have a good message,
Yeah.
or have a message at all. If your movie doesn't mean anything, that's fine. But if you're trying for it to mean something and it doesn't mean anything,
And I
that's
think
where
that you
mess
can
up.
even you can even create something that doesn't appear to have a message, but that could be the message itself, or something that doesn't that I don't have an example off the top of my head, but like I'm so focused right now in the sort of experimental side of filmmaking because of what I'm doing in school, and experimental filmmaking is a whole other realm that if you haven't explored it, I highly recommend, because it's kind of fucky, but you really have to have an open mind when you're watching experimental films, because at first glance it's so trivial, and there seems to be no substance. But then, if you really open your mind and think about the things that you're seeing, it can open up a whole new world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that me being in an experimental filmmaking class, it's really helped me, you know, take away things that I can use when I'm creating narrative projects as well. Like experimental filmmaking, there's some weird shit out there. I mean, there are films that that are just pink dots on a screen. There are films that are bit crushed scenes from other movies that just look like garbage, but those all have meanings as well. And it might take a different kind of person to figure those meanings out. It might take a different type of mindset to be able to piece together those kind of films, but I think that they're so important, and a lot of people just brush experimental films to the side because that a lot of people think that they don't have a lot of substance, but I highly recommend checking out that world because, like I said, it can really being exposed to that kind of film, those kind of films have really helped me see narrative films in a different light as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that on that part 2.
Right. Well, I was gonna add on to that just for a second, just kind of. I have an example of that recently. Like I recently saw the movie Moonlight,
Yeah.
and I love it. It's a great movie. But afterward, I was kind of sat there when the credits were rolling, and I was like, I had a thought in my head. I was like, what was the point of that? Almost. It was like, what was I supposed to
Right.
gain? Like, what was I watching this for? Kind of thing. And I realized afterwards is that it had nothing to do with the story. The story had to do with what the characters were, because you weren't supposed to. It was almost a reversal of like how a movie works. A movie has characters to support the story, but this was a story to support the character, because it was a character study film. It was really just about how a black man lives in this black society that doesn't understand gay people, and
Mhm.
he's a gay person. And that's the whole point of his character, and that's the whole point of his character progression as he gets older in life, is to how he accepts himself and grows to, deal with that side of himself. But at the end of the credits, I was sitting there and it just told the story of this person, and it just felt like I was sitting in a room with someone telling me a story that I didn't get to point to for a second, because I was like, I love it and I love the story, but what was the point of the actual story itself? What was the point of these things they
Right.
were telling me? And then it kind of sat in, and I was like, yeah, it wasn't about
Right.
generic story. It wasn't about telling me it wasn't about telling me this thing. It was about showing me a person. It was like just this dude was like, man, you got
Yeah.
to meet this guy, and that was what
See,
that was. And I was like, yeah, I
I
did
love
like that. That
character
was interesting.
studies. I think that's what I'm leaning towards. What what I love writing the most is character studies because I don't know,
Hmm.
I just love the aspect of diving into different personalities and stuff like that, and I feel like I could watch those types of movies forever. Like I'll bring it up. My favorite movie tentatively, Gone
Oh
Girl.
my god.
Oh, I love
Oof.
Gone Girl so much, and the character of Amy Dunn is just done so well,
It is a good
and
movie.
it just, oh, it's so good.
That was another one of those movies I had the same reaction to.
Really,
Was at the end of the story, I was like, okay, so
oh,
what was that for? And then it was like, then I realized, oh, it was to tell me the
oh,
story
it
of this
was,
crazy woman.
oh, I could watch that movie every single day. The
It
sound
definitely is.
It's
design,
interesting. It's definitely an
the
interesting
the oh,
point.
the cinematography, oh, I love it. And the book is good too. I'm in the middle of reading the book, and it's a very it's the movie is so far a good adaptation of the book. It's very great.
That's good. It's always
They
good to
have the
have a good,
same.
It's always hard to do books into movies, and everyone
Don't
seems to
even
keep
get me
wanting to
started
do it.
on that because I am a firm. No, well.
Yeah,
This
no.
is going to probably be different than what you think I'm going to say. I'm a firm
Hmm.
I don't give a fuck about the book kind of person. Like I will never
Hmm.
I don't think I ooh, I don't think I will ever complain that a movie did not live up to its book counterpart. Like I'm just able to separate the movie from the book. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I can't I can rarely get into a book. I'm much more of a visual entertainment type of person, but I think that books and movies are completely separate, and for someone to judge a book or to judge book adaptation, a movie adaptation of a book, I don't know. It's just like
Hmm.
I think that everybody should be able to separate the two and enjoy them as
Right.
separate
Well, it
pieces of entertainment.
right, and I agree with you on that side because it's so it's kind of strange in a way of saying like I was saying like having a movie adaptation of a book. It's like having a movie adaptation of a song.
Very
They're
different,
different
yeah.
mediums. They're different complete things. Like you can have a
Right,
song that tells a story like a movie or like a book, but that doesn't mean it's going to be as good as doing that as a movie or a book. So having a book is so descriptive, and the reason, and it has to be because you're looking at words. You're not looking
right.
at a scene like in a movie. It has to describe. It has to put you in that kind of feeling. When a movie can do that easy, a movie can just show you, you know, it can show you a bloody knife and you'll feel scared. Like you don't have to describe, some crazy horrible thing to make you feel scared in a movie. In a book, you have to. So making a book into a movie is such a strange concept to me because it almost is like so it's so different. Why would you want to
Right.
have something that different? So and having and basing how good a book movie is based on the book, or basing how how different a movie is, and how good a movie is, what a movie's worth is based on a book, is so
Well, yeah.
weird that that's a thing, because obviously I get why
A
people draw comparisons
right.
because it's narrative and stuff like that. But there's narratives, like I was saying, there's narrative songs. I don't see anyone making a movie based on Bohemian
But they
Rhapsody.
did.
Obviously they're making.
No,
I
yeah,
mean, not
yeah.
based on this. I mean,
Right.
that
Like
was a
Mama,
really
I
stupid
Killed a
example. Not
Man.
based on the song
Yeah.
story. No one's making a movie based on a
Right.
poor boy from a
Well, and
poor
I think a
family.
lot of people
You know.
forget that books and movies are created by two entirely different sets of people. Oftentimes, the
Right.
authors of books have absolutely no say in how the movie is created, and writers are a lot different than directors, and they're they process their what they have to work with differently. So of course, a director is going to create something that isn't exactly what the author had in mind, because the author doesn't have a say. And I think that both can be great in their own right. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's always they're
Yeah,
just too different. They're just too, like, you have to. It's like a book being a different thing is and then a movie being a different thing. They're separate, even though they have the same exact name, same exact characters. You
right.
have to look at them differently, or else you're gonna get so screwed on the details and everything, and you're just gonna get so turned around on how to
In a
look
book,
at
I mean, if
something
you
like
think
that.
about it, condensed into one period of time, how long could a book take someone to read? 24 straight hours? I mean, combined all together, it could take someone so long to read a book. And you only have around, what, 2.5 hours um, to convey 24 hours worth of content from a book to a movie. I mean,
Right.
I, it's impossible to do that. I know everybody jokes that, you know, if the Harry Potter movies could have been turned into 8 hours of movie each, like each movie being 8 hours in order to cram every single detail from the book, yeah, those movies would be awesome. Like, I would watch I mean, I don't know if I would watch 8-hour movies of the Harry Potter series, but
Right.
and it would be incredibly hard to make. Maybe it would be impossible to make, but I mean, I think that a lot of no matter how bad the adaptation is, I think that it's a really cool feat to be able to transcribe a book into a movie in such a short amount of time comparatively to each other.
Mhm.
What about you, Rico? What do you think?
Yeah, that I
Rico, you haven't been talking.
yeah.
What?
Well, I mean, yeah. Rico's
Eating
been
quiet.
I've been quiet.
Is he there?
quiet.
No.
You're right there.
Oh my
bud.
God.
I think he fell asleep.
Probably. Sorry.
I mean, do you have anything you want to bring up, Rico? Any other topics or anything? I mean, we are hitting the hour mark.
Not particularly. I'm all talked out. Apparently.
Cool.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
All right then.
Cool.
Well, I
Sun's getting
think
real low,
it's
big guy.
right around that time. You know,
That's gonna be
sun's
the thing.
getting real low. I
Sun's
think that's just
getting
gonna be
low.
your thing. Is the sun's getting real low? We're just gonna bring up Marvel shit every single time. Sun's getting real low. So, you know, I think that'll conclude this little podcast. It'll conclude our little. It'll conclude. It'll
Conclude.
conclude. That's a good word. It's
Conclude.
Conclude. This little podcast, a little random doohickey thing where we talked about movies and a bunch of other shit. So, okay, now, while I'm talking, it'd probably be a good idea for you guys to get up your Twitter
Forgot about
handles,
that.
because we can throw in our Twitters and have people, you know, go
Oh,
and follow
yeah.
us. So, if you want to go follow me, the guy who probably talked the most in this podcast, because I just can't shut the
that's
fuck
okay.
up, go follow me at capital H Hunter capital L K 16. It sounded kind of weird. So Hunter LK16. I post a lot of stupid shit, and then and a lot of video game waifus. So just you know, just go if you want to go
Do
see
it.
that. You know, just hang around there. I'm sure if you go
Yeah.
talk to me, I'll talk to you back. All right, now Rico, Chloe,
Go ahead. I'm
you
good.
guys
But
got your shit.
Rico, go first.
Oh. Rico, go first. All right.
Were you gonna
Yeah.
throw yours in?
Rico,
I mean,
you do it.
You can follow me at Rico Miranda 134. I post my opinion a lot. I did it today, and I know it offended some people, but I don't care. I
I'm
don't
looking
care.
at it
It needed
right
to
now.
be said, and it was said, and people retweet me for that, so I don't really
Fair
care.
enough.
That's how I feel about that. But yeah, that's about how that goes.
And then my Twitter is just Logic Lens, LOGICLENS. And you can follow me there. I post whatever I feel like.
Nice.
Usually just random shit that comes into my mind that I think is kind of funny. Yeah.
It's usually
It's probably
not.
not that funny, but
I think that's. I
Makes
think that's all
me
you can hope
laugh.
for with Twitter.
and that's sad, but it does. So there you go. Gang gang.
All right. Cool. So let's do a little bit of laundry, I guess you could say, podcast laundry between with Rico. Let's do this. We need to figure out what we're doing based on the schedule of this podcast and let
Ding,
people know
ding.
about it, because obviously we recorded today, and then we recorded the last podcast yesterday. So we need to figure out how we're recording and also how we're going to post. What are you thinking, Rico? What do you think you want to do for posting?
Yeah.
Maybe, I'm thinking
Yeah.
weekly, but that's with everyone's schedule. But I think weekly could work for us. Maybe doing one podcast with us a week, and then the next week doing one with maybe someone else. Hopefully getting that.
Mhm.
Hopefully having that system work out would be good. I think that'll work for us. I think that'll work for the folks at home.
I mean, I think weekly sounds pretty good. Yeah, that's that.
Nice.
Cool. That works.
And that's that on that.
Nice. And that's that on that. You heard it here last, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we'll see you guys next
Good God.
podcast.